Hello, my friends. Merry Christmas. It's officially the season, and I am so excited to spend the next few podcasts talking about Christmassy type things because I love this season. I love the coziness and the comfort that comes along with it. I love to slow down during the season instead of speeding up. And so I'm excited for today's podcast where we're going to talk about Hygge, a Danish cultural practice. And we'll talk about what that is in a second. But before we do, starting today, today is December the 2nd, I'm offering a 20% discount through this Friday until midnight on the Open and Go experience. If you're not familiar with what that is, I talked about it in the bonus podcast on how do we make a magical Christmas with our family. And the Open and Go experience puts everything into practice and is done for you. It includes a downloadable workbook. It includes 4 playlists that you can upload to your phone through Spotify, and you don't have to have a Spotify premium account to get those. It includes scents, recipes. It includes taste recipes of various foods to eat during the season, as well as a full menu for Christmas dinner if you don't already have one. And it also includes some videos on some cool things that you can do with your kids, as well as other experiences to make the season really magical. But the most beautiful thing that it includes, that took me hours and hours and hours to create, is a 3-dimensional Christmas Advent village that you use with read alouds. And I also include a list of read aloud books for you to pick up from the library, or you can order them through Thrift Books or Amazon. But the village is something that you do with your kids, and it's an Advent calendar at the same time. And it's used in conjunction with read aloud. It's beautiful. So if you are interested in that Open and Go experience, everything's downloadable. And so it's really great. You can download it today, but I am offering that for 20% off this week for since it's Cyber Week and it's an online program. So I'm excited for that. The discount code is Cyber20. That's included in the show notes, as well as the link to get that is all included in the show notes. If you want to help support this podcast, I also have a website an Etsy shop called A Snarky Homeschooler. I'm slowly adding more and more designs, but that's a fun way to help support this podcast if you're enjoying it. So anyway, with that, I'm excited. And then the last thing is I started offering one-on-one coaching for those of you who need a little extra help as you're beginning your homeschool journey or as you're in the middle of your homeschool journey. I want to help you along with that journey. So I am offering one-on-one coaching, but I'm very limited in the number of people I can take. If you are interested in learning more about that, you can sign up for a discovery call. It's free. We talk for 15-20 minutes about what you're needing and what you're looking for. And then we go from there and see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, no worries. If it is, great. But I'd love to be able to talk with you about your unique family situation. So there's also one-on-one coaching if you're interested. And I haven't offered this before. So excited to offer that as well. Anyway, all of that stuff, all the links for all that are in the show notes. And with that, let's go ahead and get started on talking about Hygge. Hello, and welcome to School to Homeschool. My name is Janae Daniels. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a former middle school teacher turned homeschool mom. I have kids in their 20s, all the way down to elementary age, and everything in between. Are you thinking about pulling your kids from the public school system like I did, but you are scared to death and don't know what to do next? My friends, I felt the exact same way, and you have come to the right place. I want to help your family leave the system so that you can take the hearts and minds of your children back. Okay, y'all, I am so excited. It is fully the Christmas season. I have to hold back prior to Christmas because my husband is absolutely a Thanksgiving traditionalist that we do not put up Christmas decor before Thanksgiving, except for I did because this last week was crazy. It was the first time in 15 years that we've gotten together with my extended family for Thanksgiving, and we drove out. Usually I like to keep it at home. That's my choice because I'm like, let's just keep it at home, not travel over Thanksgiving. But I had a cute niece getting married, and I was helping with all the wedding prep, making the veil and helping with the wedding dress and all these, all the things that come along with wedding preparation as well as Thanksgiving. And it was so fun. And we got back late last night, which is why this podcast is coming out so late because I didn't record it last week because we were out of town. But what a wonderful Thanksgiving that we had. And I hope your Thanksgiving was equally as wonderful. But now it's Christmas time and we can talk about Christmassy things. And I wanted to start by talking about this. Today's podcast is all about Hygge and what that is. And some of you may have never heard that term. I certainly did not. I had never heard that term until I started homeschooling. However, it is not a homeschooling specific practice or art by any stretch of the imagination. And I've even joined a Hygge Facebook page because it just warms my heart and it makes me happy. So the question is, what is Hygge? And I'm pulling from my Hygge home by I'm totally going to butcher his name, Mike Wiking. I don't speak Danish, and so sorry if that's how you pronounce your name, Mike. Meek. But he is a Danish author who specializes in Hygge. He's written another book, and I'll include these in the show notes if you're interested in picking these up from the library or from Amazon. But Hygge, I'm just going to read what it is because I don't want to butcher it. It says, Hygge is the art of creating a nice atmosphere. It is about being with people we love, a feeling that we are safe, that we are shielded from the world, and can allow ourselves to let our guard down. You may be having an endless conversation about the small or big things in life, or just being comfortable in each other's silent company. Or you may simply be by yourself, enjoying a cup of tea. It's the feeling of home. In other words, Hygge is about how we turn our house into a home, into a place where we find comfort and connection. Designing your Hygge home is to imagine which activities can take place here that will have a positive impact on your well-being, and then shaping your life, your living space to make that happen. And then he goes on to say, it's difficult to overstate how important Hygge is to the Danes and the Danish culture. The Danish obsession with Hygge seems so ingrained in our cultural DNA and natural values that to say you don't care about it would be as much as a social faux pas in Denmark as it would be for a British person to say, I don't think we should stay calm. I think we should freak out. Or for an American to say, I've been thinking lately about this freedom thing, and I've come to the conclusion that it's not for me. Let me try to demonstrate how much Hygge means to us. So it's this Danish cultural practice of, and the best way to describe it is creating an atmosphere and a life of coziness, of safety, just this feeling of cozy. My sister and I were trying to describe it to our 81-year-old mother over Thanksgiving. And my sister finally was like, Mom, think of it like this: raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of our favorite things. It's creating a space and a life of coziness. And so we were trying to describe that to our sweet mom, who was doing her best to understand. But one of the things, and I think this is the perfect season to start creating an atmosphere in our homeschool of Hygge, of this comfort, of this safety. As I mentioned, I wasn't introduced to this idea until I started homeschooling, and it was in the book The Brave Writer by Julie Bogart that I first was introduced to that. And she suggested, she's like, so try to do things out of the ordinary in your homeschool world. Create light candles. When you have meals together, light candles and turn down the lights, or put your meals on beautiful dishes. We're so used to being in a society of consumerism and throwing away and fast paced and go, 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 and do as quickly as possible, that Hygge seems to be the opposite. It's a culture of slowing things down and softening things and being more gentle, more intentional, getting out warm blankets and being snuggly. One of the things that I talked about in the bonus podcast is adding to the senses, reading aloud together. The first thing that we want to do is read aloud together with our children, which is very Hygge in and of itself, but getting the cozy blankets and then adding hot chocolate to the experience, adding a lovely scent. In the Open and Go experience, I have a couple recipes for scent simmers that you throw all these natural ingredients into a crock pot and you let it just simmer all day. So for 4 days prior to leaving for Thanksgiving, I had the scent simmer just going, and we had some company come right before we left for Thanksgiving. And the house, the aroma of the house was cranberries and oranges and cloves and cinnamon. And I lit all these candles, and I do have battery operated candles too, but because I don't have little tiny ones at home anymore, my youngest is almost 9. I can do candles without worrying about our house burning down. I still worry about it burning down. I'm just very more conscious, but I don't worry quite as much because I don't have littles that are going to knock over a candle. And so I lit candles. I even went to Walmart and bought one of those old-fashioned what is it called? A kerosene lamp, except for it's not kerosene. It's an oil that you put in it. It was like $15. And I was just delighted. We turned off all the lights, and the glow of the kerosene lamp and the candles and then the Christmas tree lights, because we put up the Christmas tree before we normally do, it was just magical. It was the embodiment of Hygge. So the author goes on to say, according to his finding, Hygge is a situational sense of ease and pleasure, enjoying the here and the now, an atmosphere brought about by the way you are with people, the mood of the encounter, and the feel of the physical space. The surroundings are very important when it comes to the feeling of Hygge. It's about places with atmosphere. So I think it's fascinating because he talks heavily in his other book and in the Hygge Home about how throughout Denmark, no matter if you go to a restaurant or to a coffee shop or to any sort of shop, the Danes want to embody this feeling of Hygge, of comfort, of coziness. And one of the reasons that they do this is because during the year, it's, a good chunk of the year in the wintertime, it's so dark. And as we all know, without that light, from the sunlight, it affects most people's moods. Maybe not everybody, but I know it certainly affects my mood. I lived in Portland, Oregon for a time, and the overcast for a lot of Oregonians really becomes difficult year after year after year. And so I noticed that in Portland and in the surrounding areas, they would paint their houses these bright colors, right? And I always felt like, oh, maybe it's to compensate for this feeling of darkness, because the sun's not, they don't get to see the sun very often. And that seems to be part of what it's rooted in. And I could be totally wrong. And so as homeschoolers, if we can create our atmosphere of coziness, particularly during the Christmas season, and just slow it down, rather than doing full school all the time in our kitchen with bright, all the lights on, maybe what if we lit some candles and we spent the month talking about Christmas? What if? And if you're not a Christian and you want to, focus on the secular or whatever, if you're Jewish, you want to focus on Hanukkah or whatever religious holidays surround whatever culture you are, you could do that. But this idea of, as Americans, and I know not all of my listeners, I know not all of you are from the United States. I know there's a lot of you from Australia, from Europe, Canada, although Canada is still North America. But I feel like as Americans, we tend to be always about the hustle and bustle. I went to university at a small university, a private university in Hawaii, which I paid for myself. I will have you know, working 3 jobs. Um, but one of the things when I came back to the mainland that I was really shocked about was how fast paced everything was. And I was in Texas, which is already, you know, somewhat slower. But I think sometimes we try so hard to do so many things that life passes us by without us really enjoying as they say in Dead Poet Society, the marrow of life. And so what my challenge this month is to embrace this idea of hygge. So here's some things um, about hygge. Hygge is an experience and atmosphere. It's about feeling safe and at home with loved ones rather than about material things. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to do hygge. You buy some candles. Hygge is about being present. It's about savoring the moment of being mindful, which can include turning off technology or just leaving it at home. A couple weeks ago, I talked about all it takes is a goal and being grateful and remembering the past experiences that you've had and writing those down. And as John A. Cuff had said in his book, All It Takes is a Goal, that being present is being nostalgic about the moments that you're in. This past week, I was really working hard on being emotionally and mentally present and nostalgic about all the things we went and visited my mom and dad, who are now in a retirement center, and they like it because they have their own little apartment within the center. They didn't want to live with any of us. They wanted to have their own little space. And as we were there, I just kept thinking, I want to remember um, with my kids being with my mom and dad right this second. Like I'm gonna bottle this moment up. I'm gonna put it in my mental bottle of important moments in my life, just being there with my mom and dad and my kids. So really being present um, without thinking of what we're going to do next. That we're making cookies and we're going to be there making cookies with our kids. We are reading with our kids, really being there with our children as we're reading. We're going to go look at lights, really being there with our kids and our spouses and whoever, our friends, as we do this, really being present. Hygge is about gratitude. And we've talked the last couple of weeks about gratitude. Expressing gratitude can make people happier, more enthusiastic, and more forgiving. Hygge is about relationships. Studies show that social relationships are a major factor in happiness, and hygge can deepen those relationships. Hygge is about being humble and slow. It's about choosing simple over posh, rustic over new, ambiance over excitement. Again, I think one of the blessings that we have in the homeschooling world is that we don't have to keep up with how the school system does things. We don't. This Christmas season, we are doing essentially Christmas school. My kids have to do a little bit of math each day. And then we're playing games, we're doing puzzles, we're reading Christmas stories, we're trying new recipes, and just really, and then I want to, you know, sprinkling in those experiences of cool things. I want to do some stuff helping the homeless and other opportunities of service. Hygge is about relationships. Oh, sorry, I already did that one. Hygge is about coziness. It's about creating a cozy atmosphere and feeling protected from the elements. So pull out your extra blankets and keep them out. Put them in a big basket, y'all. I'm trying not to. There's certain things that I hoard in my life. Baskets is one of them, and I love going to the thrift store and buying extra baskets because they're super cheap there. I've had to curb that a little bit, but I pulled out all of our blankets and just like our extra throw blankets, not our comforters or anything from our beds, but I put out our throw blankets all around the house, and the kids have been just snuggling up in them every single day. Um, so creating an atmosphere of coziness, having lamps in various areas to light, make little spaces of magic. Hygge can be experienced alone or with others. Spending time alone can be Hygge-like, such as when you're working on the sofa while it's raining outside. Hygge can be experienced in many ways. Some examples include falling asleep in a warm bed, baking cookies, or curling up with a book. And so my challenge to you is this over the next week or month is to create a homeschool of coziness where you're slowing things down. Maybe you're in the process of deschooling right now. Everyone's different in their journey, and really soaking in that deschooling process, and that really enjoying the moments. I love getting out a puzzle. Last night when we got home, there was a surprise on our doorstep, and some of our neighbors brought over a gift, and my kids opened it, and it was an advent puzzle. And it was so fun. And so each day there's a package, and you put together that day's part of the puzzle. They want to put together the whole thing, but I'm like, no, it's an advent. And so we went ahead and cleared off the main table, and we're actually going to get another puzzle so that they can work on that all day as we listen to stories, as we learn about watch different videos on the history of Christmas and St. Nicholas, and all of the different aspects of Christmas, whether it's secular or religious. And then we're going to do a lot of cooking and trying new recipes. I might even try my hand at caramel. I don't know. See. My husband loves fudge. We might try fudge. I've never really made fudge before, but the kids really want to experience in the kitchen and try some fun, different recipes. That's part of Hygge, is that creating that atmosphere like of real food and of just this cozy and comforting. And so I'm really excited. Another book, and I'll probably do a podcast on this one just because there's so much information in it. I've been reading the book also Joyful by Ingrid Fatel Lee, and she talks about aesthetic principles that have been scientifically found to release endorphins and dopamine into the system, such as that when you add lots of saturated color to environments, it creates a release of dopamine in the system. So, which is interesting to me because in the United States, the popular design lately for the last few years is beige. Everyone is neutral. Everything is neutral toned, and we're monochromatic in what we choose. Like we're going to have all beiges and tans and grays, and yet that what the science shows is that the more color there is, the more dopamine is released, which is why children love colorful environments. They love colorful toys. They love this saturated color because the frequencies of the color helps us to release dopamine. She also talks about shapes, that rounded shapes also are very aesthetically pleasing to our brain and to our bodies, which I just found really fascinating. So I'll probably touch on this in a later podcast, is Joyful and creating an environment of joy. Maybe I'll do it next week. We'll see. But this week, my challenge for you is to create a Hygge environment, and really lean into the things that bring coziness and joy to your home. Maybe you pick up some cheap candles at the dollar store and light those. Like if you have little kids, pick up some tea lights. Tea lights are not very expensive, some battery operated ones, right? And turn off the lights and turn on some tea lights. One of them shared this really cool story in the book. He says, after I read about Hygge, I went out and bought 2 candelabras and we started lighting them at dinner. One of my readers told me he and his wife have 3 sons, 18-year-old twins, and a son who was 15 at the time. When he first started to light the candles for dinner, his boys teased him. What's with the romance, Dad? Do you want to have some dinner alone time with Mom? But soon he noticed small changes around the dinner table. Time seemed to slow down. The teenagers became more talkative. The change in the atmosphere at the table put the boys in a storytelling mood. They don't just shovel in the food anymore. They sip their wine. They tell us about their day. By making simple changes, dinner time is no longer just about food. It's about hygge. And now the boys are the ones who light the candles for dinner. He goes on to say a small design change can have a big impact. A different dinner setup changed how the family interacted. More hygge led to longer family dinners. That got me thinking, and he says, if a small change like a candle could have such a large effect, what other hygge design hacks could have positive impacts? It goes on. So my challenge is for you to create spaces of hygge, of comfort and coziness in your home, starting today. Maybe you light a candle. Maybe you put on a tablecloth. Maybe you get out and create a little hot chocolate bar. Maybe you light a scented candle. I don't do scented candles anymore because of hormones, but I will do a scent simmer and put oranges and cloves and cinnamon sticks into a little crock pot and let it simmer. And then slow down the homeschooling. Do some things out of the ordinary that you normally wouldn't do. Maybe you say, hey, today we're not going to do your traditional math online or your math in the book. We're going to try our hand at making, like I mentioned before, caramel or fudge, which is actually what I'm about to do as soon as I get off this podcast. And so that's my challenge, is to create a hygge atmosphere, take a nod from the Danish, and create an atmosphere of coziness and slowing down. Maybe put on some Christmas music. Again, these are all things that we talked about in the bonus, Making a Magical Christmas. When we add sensory experiences to our day, we do things out of the ordinary. It creates magic for not only for our kids, but for us too. So that's my challenge for you today, is to create a hygge experience. That's it. My friends, slow down this Christmas. You deserve it. Your kids deserve it. With that, I'm excited for the rest of the month. I'm excited for the things that we'll be talking about. If you want, pick up your Open and Go experience at 20% off this week. And if you want to think about doing one-on-one coaching, the link for my Calendly is in the description. But in the meantime, create an atmosphere of hygge. You got this, mamas and papas. We'll talk next week.
If you enjoyed this today, please like and subscribe. You could also join our private Facebook group at School to Homeschool, or sign up for our newsletter at www.schooltohomeschool. Have a great day.